Police wouldn't hit him. I would keep watch up and down the street. He was selling heroin.
None of Agent Sutton's targets was more dangerous than the infamous hitman Chester Campbell.
The notorious hitman named Chester Campbell saw him initially while buying dope in a dope house. Coyle, I think the street was on Coyle. And when Campbell walked into the room, there was a kind of an eeriness about him. And the guys, they were mobbed. One guy wanted to be like him, talked about he was one of the famous hitmen, the killers, that he earned like $10,000 a hit. In that particular case, the informant ended up being killed.
I met Chester Campbell once in my life, and I went to see him in the county jail. In the county jail, the old county, it's really small. When you looked at him, you know, you're looking at him like I'm looking at you, and you don't see nothing. You just look, those eyes. And he was very, very smart.
But in that case, the informant ended up dead, and his body was identified. He had been eaten by the field rats, and he was identified by a thumbprint that had not been devoured by the field rats. I suspected that Chester killed this person while I was inside of his house buying dope, and the guy suspected that I was a police. He called the informant into the room, and he wanted me to front the money. I wouldn't front it. And he had a little girlfriend, a little attractive, light complexion female. And when I told him he was in the police finding business, that we would go and spend our money where they were selling dope. And we left, and as we were leaving and going back to the undercover car, the young lady ran out and said that she would cop the dope for us. A blue Cadillac Fleetwood Brougham pulled up in front of a house. It was her mother's house, and we were sitting on the front porch. A guy on the passenger seat had what appeared to be a Thompson machine gun. He brandished it like that and looked at me and the informant. And then they drove away. About 20 minutes later, she came back driving that Cadillac. She indicated that this was a connect. And if he thought I was the police, he was going to spray us right there with that gun. He was going to kill us there on the spot.
When Chester Campbell was arrested in 1975 after running a police car off the road, authorities found 4 loaded guns in his car, along with notebooks containing 300 names, including those of murder victims, dead police informants, and politicians, along with diagrams of their homes and notes about their daily routines.
But back in '72, I think we put away a large number of those dope dealers. And I think, had we not put them away at that time, this city would have been completely destroyed by the dopers and the murders that were taking place.
As Henry Marzette lay dying in his hospital bed, Detroit's economy was slipping away along with him, and the young people of the city began to look toward the street instead of the factory floor for their daily bread.
At the end of '73, me and my friend, we started selling a little weed. Child started wanting us to push a little heroin for him, so he'd give us 10 packs. We'd take the 10 packs and go out there and sell them. Then we go back, get him the $90, we kept 10. We see that we were taking him all the money, so we said, man, maybe we need to start getting our own shit and start doing it. Because my friend said, well, ain't he gonna get mad? Get mad all he wants. He said, man, but he's supposed to be our friend. I said, yeah, well, he our friend, but he also not paying us much. And every day I was coming home with new clothes. My mama all like, where you get them clothes from?
By the mid-'70s, street gangs were coming to power in L.A., Chicago, and New York. In Detroit, gangs like the Bishops, Black Killers, and Earl Flynn's terrorized the East Side.
They run in with Flynn, 2 Flynns. We beat the shit out of them.
You know, gangs had died. Used to be Earl Flynn's, Bishops, Shane Gang, all that's East Side. West Side was FAs, that's the them Finkel Avenue boys, PAs, 8 Mile Scones.
And they used to always come through there shooting. BK was shooting at the Earl Flynn's, and then Earl Flynn would ride back over there and shoot up the BKs.
You know what I'm saying? We never really claimed that gang kind of bullshit. We just would stump a motherfucker from the police or whoever.
They was doing some weed, selling weed and heroin, little heroin. They wasn't doing no big time stuff, but they was trying to move up, but because they were shooting at each other, they couldn't move. They couldn't gain foothold, so anybody else that was doing it was moving up.
The kids the young guys who were in the Flynn's and all that were poor kids who most of the time didn't have no money.
Cobo Hall, Parliament Funkadelic Flashlight Concert, you know what I'm saying? They get ready to land the mothership. was about 8 of us. We glass heeled up with them motherfucking Lou Miles suits on. 30 motherfuckers surround us. Bossolinis, baggy ass pants. They had us outnumbered. We was gonna buck. They gave us a pass. You know, we like, shh. Then they running up and down the hall how we knew who they was with the Earl Flynn.
The auto jobs everyone had moved up to Detroit for were rapidly disappearing. But the children of Detroit had grown up in the shadow of the world's largest corporations and were ready to graduate from petty crime to the world of big-time drug dealing.
What's up? I'm B. Skeeter. Original YBI, 1977. Before the snitching and the bitching. I grew up on Yosemite and Elmhurst, but I lived on Martindale and Elmhurst. That's where it all began. That's where YBI started. Just a bunch of young motherfuckers like the Little Rascals. Little child. We was like all brothers. All our mothers loved each other and loved all of us.
In July of '75, the corner of Finkel and Livernois, a solid working-class neighborhood in northwest Detroit, was the site of a mini riot that laid bare Detroit's unholy trinity of crime, race, and class.
People moving out, people moving in. Why? Because of the color of the skin.
Last night's unrest was touched off by the fatal shooting of 18-year-old Obie Wynn, a black, by a white tavern owner who accused the youth of trying to steal his car. An angry crowd of several hundred residents responded with a rock-throwing, window-smashing, burning spree through the predominantly black business district of northwest Detroit.
They murdered, in that on Livernois, they murdered a innocent little Polish man.
This old white guy got killed on Livernois.
It was a very sad story.
Smashed his head with a cinder block.
It would have been a full-blown riot had not Coleman and the Detroit police contained it.
Detroit, already in the grips of a devastating economic recession, was ripe for violence. Unemployment approaches 25%, more than 125,000 workers. And the jobless rate among black teens is reportedly twice that of adults. The bar and Andrew Chinarian, the bar owner, now accused of second-degree murder, are both controversial. According to area residents, Chinarian allegedly maintained a white-only policy at the bar.
It's a white honky bar. Peckerwood bar.
Why do you say that?
Because the man, he got a buzzer on there. If you can come down and you see that you're black, you do not get in.
Mayor Young today condemned the violence.
While some people with legitimate concern showed anger, frustration as they demonstrated in front of that bar, other hoodlums and rip-off artists were taking advantage of the situation and ripping off the area between 7 Mile and St. Martin's, for instance, on Livernois and other areas. That will not be tolerated.
One of the men charged in killing the Polish immigrant was a charismatic 20-year-old from the Dexter and Martindale neighborhood on the west side named Raymond Peoples.
Raymond come up out of it.
He was acquitted, but you also know that people were disappearing and didn't come to court.
We already was doing a little something, but out of the love for Raymond, they slid him right in. He had the gift of gab, he had the respect, everybody loved him, right on top.
We had never seen anything like YBI. We had never seen a kid that young, that reserved, that articulate, that smart.
We call this the red zone. From Davidson to Joy Road, Livernois, Dexter, red zone. And we held this down. You can't slang shit around here. We started eliminating all these old motherfuckers sitting up behind the door slanging shit, right? Get the fuck on. Martindale and Elmhurst, Dexter and Dwayne, Dexter and Tuxedo. It was the runners. Sally from the valley, you know, the big hands and all that. Big man, Bobby and Fatty. If a motherfucker would ask them, damn, who got it? Them young boys got it. Because we was all little kids.
When the addicts on Dexter began calling them the Young Boys, they decided to stamp their heroin packets with that name.
We stamped that shit Young Boys Incorporated, not YBI, in cursive. Young Boys, Inc.
Once the police and newspapers found out about it, the name stuck, and Young Boys fever spread across the city.
We had spots on Calvert and motherfucking 12th, Highland Park, that we towed in half. We got a lot of crew out of Highland Park once they seen our mentality. Prairie and Joy Road was our first spot. We took that bitch. Mac and Gray, or Mac and Bewick.
Only in Detroit, hometown of 3 of the world's largest corporations, could a group of teenage drug kingpins call themselves Incorporated.
And when I came back in '79, I saw a city that rotten into the core.
Around this time, Nathaniel Boone Craft joined the Army Special Forces, where he received the training he'd later put to use as a hitman in the streets of Detroit.
They say Vietnam was over, but yet they still fighting over there undercover. On the down low, they send somebody in to do something. Hey, we was paid to do this, and I did it. We basically, like I said, the Army wouldn't talk much about me, because most of us that did come home, they wasn't expecting us to do what we did.
July 1979. 3 bodies with their heads chopped off are found in a van near John R., just south of Erskine.
They had several beheadings. They had one guy had a street named Doc Holliday, and one guy, street name, I think his name was Frank Usher, Frank Nitty. And they decapitated three people.
Frank Nitty Usher, suspected by the Detroit police of being the city's largest heroin dealer, is quickly charged with ordering the murders. Notorious hitmen and drug dealers James Red Freeman and Adolph Doc Holliday Powell are charged along with Nitty and Robert Partee.
The notoriety of the case came because their heads were cut off and the bodies were found, and of course, if it had just been 3 dead people, they'd have said, oh, there's 3 dead people. But when you cut somebody's heads off, then of course it became the crime of the century. Usher was convicted as being an aider and abettor. Nobody claimed he shot the people. And he was basically there. They were all there. So he was convicted. He was doing a mandatory life sentence. His people came to me. The prosecutor's theory was that Partee and Red Freeman killed the people. I mean, they were supposed to be the killers. They were, according to the prosecutor's theory. And the jury convicted Partee, and he's doing life. Another jury acquitted Red Freeman, and he's doing life on another case now.
Steve Fishman helped Usher get his conviction overturned in the late 1980s.
So I got him a new trial. I think that the evidence showed that he was a target. I think it showed that somebody was trying to have him done, probably Doc Holliday, who's now dead, and that Frank, either by force of personality, quick talking, or luck, he got to the sideline rather than be one of the victims. Frank Usher is one of the easiest clients I've ever dealt with. I'm still friendly with him to this day. He's been out many, many years. And I had a drink with him 3 months ago. He's a gentleman. If you didn't know he was Frank Nitty, if people didn't say, oh, Frank Nitty, and you saw him at a ball game or in a bar, he doesn't curse, he doesn't smoke.
I never saw that in other cities. I never saw bodies put in the trunk of cars and left to rot. I never saw little kids, preteens shot in the back of their heads by dope dealers.
A lady hired my brother to do something to a numbers man. My brother wound up getting in touch with me. We go to do it. I wind up going to prison for it, but it was a number man that we had to put the frighten of God in him. So you know he must pay.
The corner of John R. and Erskine had been a known drug hotspot since the 1950s. And in 1978, YBI General Dwayne Davis sent his soldiers down on John R. to set up shop.
Yeah, we right here on John R. and Erskine. Man, there was so many motherfucking bags up in here. I was the first out of us YBI to come downtown. I came down here working for